Welcome to another coaching demo from the team at MRA. The tool we're showcasing today is the Wheel of Performance. Hi Matt, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. Nice to see you again. I know last time that we met, we were talking about overall performance and focus in role at work. And we said that we picked that up as a discussion this time. So is that something that you would like to explore today?
Yes, it's still top of mind for me. So I'm ready to experience it. So yeah, good to go.
Great, good stuff. So we've got around 10-15 minutes for today's session.
Yeah.
And as we've discussed previously, I know we've contracted really extensively in our previous sessions, but just a reminder on confidentiality. So anything that we discuss is completely confidential. I won't be discussing it with anybody else. Obviously, if you want to share the outputs from the session, then please do so. And what's important to you today in terms of what I bring to the session?
Good question. So I think for me, a bit of challenge would be really quite useful. A bit of perspective would be useful. So up for you to play back what you hear, and whether I like it or not, hold me in that space. I think that would be superbly useful. And for me, in terms of how I bring it, this is real. Okay, so this isn't prepared, it's fully real coaching experience. So you might see me taking a moment of pause while I'm sort of considering your responses, because it's not a scripted session. So really happy to do that.
Brilliant, great. So bit of challenge, perspective, holding you to that.
Yeah.
And then also, I know, a good reminder that this is not a scripted session, it is real for you. So I'll definitely hold that space for you as coach.
Yeah, that'd be superb.
Good stuff. So because we're looking at your work, your role and focus, I thought maybe we could use the Wheel of Performance as a tool to get you to look at prioritization and areas of focus for you. How does that sound?
Yeah, great. Yeah, good to go.
And I know it's a tool that you're very familiar with. So, but I will talk you through how we use it. So, do you have a pen and a piece of paper in front of you?
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Lovely, good stuff. So, if you start by drawing a big circle on that page.
Okay.
Okay, and then if you divide that into 8.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Wheel of Performance, as we've discussed, is around looking at your performance in role and your performance at work. And I just want you to take a moment and maybe have a think about what are the areas that contribute to you being successful in your work.
Okay, so what time period are we talking about?
So really think about it from the perspective of what's going to be most useful for you. So is it 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? Is it further in the future, but what's going to be most helpful for you?
So I think this is about 12 months.
Okay.
And being conscious about the 12 months.
Yeah. Okay. So thinking about the next 12 months and being conscious of what's going to be happening in that time period.
Yeah.
Okay. So have you got some areas of focus, the things that are going to be important to you over the next 12 months? You've written those down?
Yeah, they're written down, but again, up for the challenge. If you see something missing, just call it.
Okay, great. So just stepping back slightly, we're looking at the next 12 months. What's your overall goal for today's session? What would you like to get out of our time together?
So I think for me, it's about being really conscious and clear about the choices I make about where I spend my time compared to where others in the organization spend their time. So just being really clear that it's a conscious choice and that I'm not just falling into the calendar year.
Yeah. Okay. So going into next year with some conscious choices around where you spend your time.
Yeah, exactly that.
Okay, brilliant. So the areas that you've captured, have you populated the wheel with those, or have you just written them as a list?
No, I've written them as a list. Shall I pop them in?
Yeah, so if each of those segments in the wheel represents an area of focus,
Yeah.
And if you could take those top 8 areas and use those and label each of the segments.
Okay. Okay. Yep.
You've done that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, all
and
done.
Now if you can look at those 8 areas that you've captured, and I want you to prioritize those 1 to 8, where 1 is the most important for your success next year and 8 is the least important, bearing in mind they're all important because you've obviously captured them as focus areas.
Okay, this may be where the challenge comes in a bit later with perspective, but let's see. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, final bit of scaling for you to think about. I now want you to take each of those individual areas of focus and rate how happy or successful you feel you are at the moment. And if the center of the circle is 0 and the outside of the circle is 100%, from 0 to 100%, how happy or successful do you feel about each of those areas of focus? Your definition of happiness, your definition of success.
Yeah.
And then when you've done that, if you draw a line across the segment at the percentage at which you rate it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. All done.
Good. Good. Right. So if you take a bit of a step back, now look at the wheel as a whole. What are you noticing?
So I'm pretty pleased in terms of what I see. We've got, just so that you're aware, because you can't see it in this medium, but I've got an area at 100%, 2 areas at 90, an area at 80, an area at 70, another area at 70, a 60 and a 50. So nothing less than a 50 at the moment. Quite a lot sort of towards the top end, which just even taking the moment to reflect feels really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, feels really good.
So you're feeling happy. You've got some really high percentages in there that you're obviously really happy about and pleased about. It feels really good to you.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So given that we were talking and your objective for today is to think about how you consciously go into the next 12 months and choose where you spend your time, which of those areas would you like to focus in more detail?
So it's not necessarily one of the lower ones. It's actually one that's pretty high. And this is the one based around strategic partnerships. So I've labeled this as number 4. And I've labeled it at 70%. And I'm interested in potentially what that might mean into the next sort of 12 months.
Okay, fantastic. So priority 4, 70% in terms of happiness with how it's going so far. Tell me about that 70%. So what are the good things that are contributing to it being 70%?
So I think we've done really well. I think we've got very long-standing, long-term trusted relationships whereby clients come to us rather than us necessarily having to reach out to clients. I feel as though we're getting to the stage where we're being much more strategic in those relationships, much more systemic in terms of what we deliver in the organizations. And we have some brilliant relationships. And that in the last sort of 12, 18 months, those have moved globally. So we're getting to spend a lot of time in lots of different cultures, lots of different companies, talking with lots of different people and making a difference in lots of different places. So that feels brilliant. So I think we've done pretty well over the last sort of 18 months to get from where we were to where we are sitting here today. Yeah,
lovely. And what strengths do you think you've brought specifically to that area of strategic partnerships that means it's in a really good place?
That's a great question. So I think relational capability is something that I feel I really enjoy doing, and I feel as I'm pretty good at it. I enjoy spending time with people, and I enjoy spending really quality time with people. Mm-hmm. And I work really hard to build trust in a relationship. So I feel as though we are the trusted partners that we like to hold ourselves up to be. And I think I can role model that quite well for the team around us, so that MRA associates know what it looks and feels like to be a really strong strategic partner to organizations, and hold the right level of tension, but also really, really deliver for them. So yeah, I think I play a relatively strong role in that space.
Yeah. And that's certainly something I see a lot from you, Matt, is that ability to connect with people, to see that bigger picture, is a real strength there that I've seen when we've been having meetings together.
Yeah.
What else?
So I think we've grown up with lots of our clients over the last sort of few years. They've grown in their careers, and we've grown with them, and they've championed us and we've championed them. And now they're probably at more senior levels in organizations as decision owners. So they know that they could trust us to deliver the smaller bits of work that felt right at that time. And now they can see that they can trust us to deliver sort of much larger organizational wide programs. So I think we've got some strong relationships, some great history, high level of trust, and we can deliver that broader piece, which is something for us all to be proud of.
Lovely. I love that use of the word. We've kind of grown up with our clients. It's a really evocative image that you've created, and really that strength that you describe really comes out as you talk about it.
Yeah.
So it's at 70%. Going into the next 12 months, where would you like it to be?
So it's an interesting one, because I'm looking at it through the lens of, if I put everything into that, I'll have to take something out of somewhere else, and what feels right and feasible to do. So maybe even it's just 10%, because I want to put lots of energy into lots of things next year, of which I'm really excited about, and actually very values-led, passionate about. So there are some things that feel slightly more important than this does, but it still feels like it's part of our continuing to grow up and continue to grow. So maybe even just 10% would be enough to take us where we need to be for next year, and then beyond after that.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. So from 70 to 80 in the next 12 months, if you were to achieve that additional 10% and you're looking back in 12 months' time, what's going to be different?
Great question. So I think in 12 months' time, with an additional 10% in that particular area of the business, it will mean me spending more time in strategic conversations with decision makers across the organization, not necessarily me in delivery mode quite as much. So I think some of our success as a business is because of my delivery. But I think to create the strategic partnerships and to create time for those, it requires me not to always be in that space. So an awareness of that, I think, is really, really important.
Yeah.
What it will give us, I think what it will give us is stability. So what we've noticed, or what I continue to notice, is the more that we have those strategic relationships, the more we have stability, the more we have a clear picture of the future, the more that we can create great work for our associates, which I really love to see them thriving in their work. So it gives everybody an opportunity to win, and I think that that's a really important step for us.
So that 10% would mean, from your perspective, that you're maybe spending less time in delivery and more time on strategic partnerships. And the additional benefit of that is that it gives you stability, gives the organization stability, and also allows others to thrive.
Yeah. I feel that way. I mean, it'd be worth me checking that in with the team about whether they feel that way. But that's certainly what's sort of sitting with me as we're having this dialogue.
And as you say that, Matt, and you say around spending less time on delivery, more time in those strategic discussions, what's going on for you as you say that out loud?
I love coaching. And one of my other indicators is me as a coach, and continue to develop my coaching capability so that I can be at my best for the clients in the coaching space as well as in the partnership space. But I also know that it takes a lot from me, and balancing out that high energy giving of coaching to different conversations that have a different sense of purpose but can still be really meaningful and potentially touch more people than just a one-on-one coaching experience. So I'm sort of listening to myself talking and thinking that the value that I hold, which is why I coach, could potentially also be played into deeper strategic partnerships where we make an even bigger difference. And at the same time reduces the amount of energy and focus is required that we know coaching takes from us.
Yeah, lovely. So to move towards that 10%, what's the action associated with that?
So I think there's a bit for me which is about, and I'm just going to write this down as a point of reference. And I've started doing a lot of this, but haven't sort of been comprehensive in terms of how we've delivered the message. But there's something for me about going back to each of the clients as we come into a new year, new financial year, new quarter for lots of organizations, and having those strategic dialogue, not necessarily waiting for them to come to us, but potentially being a bit more proactive in the creation of what's possible. And sharing stories and case studies around other pieces of work that we've delivered that might be of value for those clients to observe. So there's a bit in there for me which possibly links to something else on my wheel, which is around our profile as an organization, both mine and that of MRA. And I'm sitting here thinking, how do we raise that profile? And potentially these things are slightly linked. So slightly more targeted client reviews, slightly more targeted profile raising, I think could be really helpful.
Yeah. So I'll let you capture that.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, yeah, good.
So a couple of actions you've got there. What's one thing you could be doing in the next couple of weeks as the year draws to a close that would move you towards that action or those actions?
So instantly what will happen after this, as you well know, is it will go on to a to-do list. And when it's on a to-do list, it gets done. Okay. But what it will look like is a to-do list, not about doing those conversations or having those direct strategic partnership conversations, but at least around getting ready for them, getting clear on where we need to be, getting clear on what those conversations need to look and feel like. Everyone's exhausted at year end, so how do we set up into the following 12 months in a really strong way and in a planful way to support their organization's ambitions? And I think we can do that brilliantly.
Yeah, brilliant. So clear action, you know that by putting on your to-do list, you're going to get it done. And it sounds like you've got the energy to really commit to doing that. Fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good stuff. So we're just coming up to time, Matt. Before we close, what else would you like to touch upon or discuss that's going to be helpful as we draw the session to a close?
I guess one of the things that we often talk about when we're coaching is perspective and challenge. And I'm sort of interested in, as you hear me say the things that you've heard me say, whether they feel right, whether you feel that it's going far enough. So wouldn't hurt to have some feedback on it. I would value it. So I don't know whether you want to do that in this conversation or elsewhere.
Yeah. So one of the reasons behind my question around how does it sound to say you're going to do less delivery and more focus on strategic partnerships was just to really test the water on whether that's really what you want to do or whether you feel like that's something you need to do. And it sounds as though you've got energy and you've got some real rationale for stepping back. So perhaps that's a discussion we could pick up when we have our follow-up session.
Yeah, superb. Yeah, really, really nice way to sort of focus the thinking, which is what I really needed. Conscious.
Yeah, lovely. And against the initial objective of going consciously into the next 12 months and really choosing consciously where you spend your time, how do you feel you've done versus that initial objective?
Yeah, and I think what it's given me is a sense of direction for that part of my wheel, and an energy to want to explore some of the others, because I'm feeling the more we're talking that quite a few of them are interlinked, and I'd quite like to get a bit clearer across the 8 and how they all link together. So a follow-up session around that and some personal reflection, I think, following today's call will be really helpful for me.
Yeah, brilliant. So brilliant. Personal reflection, and perhaps we cover those in a follow-up session as well.
Yeah, superb.
So just as we draw the session to a close, what's been most useful about the last 10-15 minutes?
Thinking time versus doing. Tendency to do, keep busy, achieve tasks, struggle with thinking time independently, try but really value bounce back. So appreciate the time and the space with somebody to get the perspective and the challenge to create the better thinking. So yeah, that's worked well for me.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for your reflections and your thoughtfulness in the session. And it's great to hear that you've got something useful that you can take forward. And I look forward to our next session together.
Superb. Thanks, Hilary. Thank you.
That concludes the MRA coaching demonstration of the Wheel of Performance. If you'd like to learn more about professional coaching, please visit our website at www.matthewradley.co.uk.